Welcome to Main Street Matters by Heart on Main Street, the podcast that, like a great trend, is always ahead of the curve. I am your host, Patrick Keiser, and I am so excited to kick off another year with you, even though it's already February. I apologize for disappearing from your podcast feed for the past few months. Between being in the sixth season and holiday travel and show travel and spending some much needed time with Little Miss Main Street and having some truly great opportunities to grow this organization, time has gotten away from me and over 2 months have passed without a new episode. But as we step through the decompression zone of 2025, I want to take a moment to reflect on what we've accomplished together since I last addressed you and look ahead to what's coming up in this new year. 2024 was an incredible year for Heart on Main Street. It was filled with challenges, but we had some great triumphs and saw moments of true generosity from our community. So first, I wanted to extend a heartfelt gratitude to everyone who contributed to our Giving Tuesday fundraising campaign in December. It seems almost forever ago now, but I have not spoken to you since then. Because of your generosity, we raised enough money to provide 6 donations to retailers throughout the Southeast that were severely impacted by Hurricanes Helene and Milton. These storms left a path of devastation, and many Main Street businesses found themselves facing the impossible task of rebuilding. Thanks to your donations, we are able to offer immediate relief and financial assistance to help those small businesses get them back on their feet and start the process of rebuilding their business. Additionally, since the beginning of the year, we've been working tirelessly to support the retailers affected by the recent wildfires in California. Natural disasters don't just destroy buildings, they disrupt livelihoods, they force store closures, and impact entire communities. Our efforts continue, and if you would like to be part of this initiative, please visit www.heartonmainstreet.org to donate. Every dollar goes directly towards helping independent retailers recover and thrive within their communities again. Heart on Main Street has had a tremendous start to 2025. I'm so excited to be able to announce this. In Atlanta, we had a partnership with the Link Companies. We held a fundraiser and we raised an outstanding $40,000 to help retailers impacted by natural disasters. This event was a testament to what you can do when an industry or even just one large company comes together to support our organization or really any organization. The money raised will go towards ongoing efforts in providing financial assistance to independent retailers in need. So I'm incredibly proud of this achievement and thank everyone who played a role in making it happen. Now, as we move our way into 2025, Heart on Main Street's mission remains the same: to support and empower independent retailers through education, financial assistance, and community support. We have an incredible lineup of educational content coming your way this year. One of our primary webinars in early 2025, actually later this month on February 26th, will be on visual merchandising. We'll bring in the experts from our friends at Retail Works Inc., Lynn Falk and Suzanne Rothenstein, to talk about how to create displays that capture attention and tell stories and drive sales for you. If you've ever struggled with arranging your store in a way that feels both functional and aesthetically pleasing, this is going to be a must register for webinar, which you can do so at heartonmainstreet.org. Another upcoming webinar we'll be having is diving into photography techniques for retailers. Whether you're posting on social media, updating your website, or sending out a promotional email, the quality of your photos can make a huge difference in how customers engage with your business. We'll be talking about everything from lighting and angles to editing tools that can really help elevate your product's image. And then speaking of websites, one of our major educational initiatives this year is help retailers drive more traffic to whether it's their website or their online stores. A beautiful website doesn't really do much if people aren't able to find it. So we'll be exploring search engine optimization or SEO, social media strategies, and online advertising techniques that can increase visibility and sales for your store. All of this is just the beginning of what we've planned for 2025. I hope you'll join us for these discussions and resources throughout the year. Now, on to today's episode. I am very thrilled to introduce my guest, Lenise Willis, the editor-in-chief of Gifts and Decorative Accessories magazine. Lenise is really one of the top voices in the industry when it comes to understanding trends, and today we're going to be talking about what's coming up in 2025, what retailers should be looking out for when they go to trade shows, what they're going to be seeing, and what their customers are going to be wanting. From shifting consumer preferences to emerging retail categories, this conversation is packed with insights that you won't want to miss. So without further ado, let's dive into my conversation with Lenise Willis. So Lenise, it is an honor to have you on. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on. Thank you.
Oh,
and first
absolutely.
Of 2025 too.
Woo, yeah, exactly. First of 2025. So let's dive into our topic for today. We are currently in the middle of winter show season. So there's new product launches, there's new emerging vendors that are making a name for themselves. There's just a ton of activity and excitement going on. If you don't attend a market, I highly recommend that you do. There's just so much to learn by being there and being in that buying environment. There's really nothing that beats seeing everything for your industry kind of all in one place. If you don't attend, well, lucky for you, Lenise and I do, and we can tell you about the great things that you might see there. And if you do attend, maybe we can help put some context to some of the things that you saw and let you know some of those overarching trends. So today, how we're going to structure this, we're going to start off big picture. We're going to be talking about trends that are going on in 2025 and what you might expect to see from your vendors, from other stores, from wholesale, what you might expect to see through social media, and big trends that are going on. So we're going to start big picture, but I know that not everybody comes from the same industry. So we're going to then break it down by different industries, different product categories, and what you might expect to see there. So, Lenise, are you ready?
I'm ready, yeah.
All right. Let's kick this off by talking about those big trends. So you have attended Atlanta, but also you've done a lot of trend research ahead of time. So tell us about what are some of these big picture trends that you see in 2025 that are shaping the retail landscape?
Yeah, of course. So I think we can just kind of start to talk, like thinking through 2025. There's still a lot of unknowns, I think, for 2025. Absolutely. There's so much up in the air. And I think that's important to remember. You know, we've got these looming tariff talk, possible price increases. So I do think we're really looking at things that are reusable and budget conscious for the consumer, because that's going to make them feel a little bit more stable and secure as we're kind of in this tumultuous little weird time period of 2025. So we're definitely looking at things that consumers feel like they're getting more bang for their buck, whether it be gift sets and things that have multiple items in it, things that can be reused or repurposed, you know, candles that can then become a vase or a coffee cup. I know Patty Wax has a ton of those options. You know, we saw a lot of reusable bags, actually, a lot of reusable gift bags at Atlanta Market. So I think reusability is going to really be key for 2025. And again, just going into that sort of budget conscious area. So I think that's a big thing to keep in mind. And then I know we talk about wellness all the time, but it's such a big trend, especially with millennials and Gen Z and the younger consumers. But it's been, you know, a lot of kind of chaotic years. And we already kicked off 2025 with wildfires and, you know, there's so much going on in the world. So I think consumers are focused on self-care and reducing anxiety more than ever. That's obviously something we saw, you know, an uptick in with the pandemic, but I think that is still carried over. So anything to do with self-care, wellness, and sleep wellness is a really big thing as well. So those are some of the kind of key overarching things, and then things that spark joy or help spread kindness. So I think people are looking for more positivity in the world.
Love that. And I know personally, reusable things. Absolutely. If I can
Mhm.
get multiple uses out of something and I see multiple purposes for something, that's something that I'm going to be attracted to as a consumer. So love that kind of as a
Yeah.
overarching trend. And sleep, everybody needs. I'm terrible at it,
Yes.
but I think, yes,
I know.
things
I
like
think
that
all of us
are.
in this industry probably are, but but it is healthy. You do need sleep for a healthy life.
So from a consumer standpoint, you hit a little bit on that they're looking for reusable items. Have their preferences evolved over the past several years, and what shifts should retailers be aware of? For a long time, people were talking about this COVID hangover. Are we finally coming out of that? Kind of what have you noticed from a consumer buying standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I do think we're coming out of our COVID hangover for sure. I would say, as far as how consumer behavior has changed, I think one thing is just people are more skeptical now.
Hmm.
Younger generations do typically tend to be more skeptical. We like to read honest reviews and do our research on something before we buy it. But especially over the last few years, and because consumers had to shop online so much more during the pandemic and right after the pandemic because of closures, they've been saturated with online shops and online reviews and product develop not necessarily product development, social trends and fads were just flying
Yeah, yeah,
as far
absolutely.
as what can capture your interest, right? We talk about how reels have just shortened attention spans for younger generations. But because of that digital saturation, now consumers are starting to become way more skeptical of claims, I think.
Okay.
So it is important to sort of show a claim of a product, but I think if the sell is too strong, younger consumers are like, I don't know. I'm so used to seeing all these sponsored posts on social media that make
Yeah.
1,000 claims. Is it really going to work? So I do think you'll have to deal with a little bit more of a skeptical consumer, and proving the value of a product, but without overselling it at the same time. I think there's a balance there, and that's why they value honest reviews and influencers even more than before. And we kind of saw some of that Atlanta market with new products that were backed by social media influencers,
Okay.
people that they feel they connect with and they take their opinion sort of over a marketing claim kind of thing. Um, I know I'm
So
kind of all over the place.
yeah, no.
If
So
that answered
for
your
that,
question.
for a retailer, in-store demonstrations, being able to
Yeah.
actually show that this does what it says it's going to do, instead of showing it does 101 different things, but actually being able to demonstrate that in store would probably be a recommendation.
Yes, absolutely. And I've heard of some retailers that even have, kind of a special discount program for their employees, or they let them try out a certain number of products because that's
Okay.
really valuable staff training too. Because you want your staff to be able to truly explain a product and preferably stand by it. If they're really passionate about it because it was great and they used it and they can give an honest review about it. That's really important staff training for sure, especially for skeptical consumers.
Yeah.
And then I think people are also just, again, looking for more sentiment, like sweet sentiments, things that help spread kindness. Again, part of that consumer behavior, still lingering from the pandemic because things have been chaotic, is just looking for more positivity. One thing I saw just in Atlanta last week, oh my gosh.
It was
um,
just last week. Yep.
I know, I'm like, when did we get back? Was actually more spiritual and religious gifts,
Hmm,
particularly with
okay.
jewelry. I know we'll get into fashion trends later, but more, saint charms and saint jewelry and um, necklaces that come with prayer cards, things that just help people to find a little more meaning and positivity, and even spirituality in the world is something we're seeing. Um, for the longest time, we talked about uh, inspirational over religious. So we were
Sure.
seeing religious gifts really wane, and it was more about you can do it,
Yeah.
inspirational.
More
And really,
generic. Yeah.
yeah, and really in the last couple of years, and especially this year, I've seen so much more specifically spiritual and religious gifts, which is kind of a neat
Interesting.
shift to
Yeah.
see that we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So kind of putting that back forward and, certainly probably some regionality to that, but having a lot more of kind of a religious and having that a little bit be more forward than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I think people are looking for meaning and connection.
Okay. Yeah. So again, going with that kindness and positivity and really that emotional connection with products.
Yes. And then I also added a note about, like, I already talked about budget consciousness, but I do think consumers are really going to be watching their dollars. We actually saw people spend way more than we ever thought they would during during the pandemic. But I think really now, especially going into 2025, they are holding those dollars a little closer as things are still uncertain and as there might be even more price hikes. We've already dealt with price hikes and, rising cost of products. So again, they're really going to be looking for anything that's value added or makes them feel like they're getting more bang for their buck.
Okay. And that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I'm continuing on from 2024, having that really budget conscious and making sure that we're spending money wisely.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, so let's talk about some individual categories. So let's start with the home decor and accessories category. What are you seeing there? What design styles? What is trending in the home decor and home accessories category?
Yeah, of course. We do a gift book survey, entire thing every October to get a feel for what consumers will be buying over the next year. And that's how we come up with some of these trend predictions, is with that data from our magazine. Cozy comfort is always at the top.
Okay.
I don't think cozy comfort's ever going to go away. People like to be comfortable in their homes. So we're still looking at soft materials and things that are comfortable. But also, neutrals play really well into that. I'd say neutrals just because they're easy to layer and repurpose. And then blues and greens flow really well into that. Those are sort of the top three color palettes that we're really looking at for 2025. Again, soft materials. And then I haven't seen a ton of this in home yet, but in holiday, velvet materials, luxury materials are trending. And I feel like that can easily flow into home as well, because we're seeing it in like holiday home decor so much.
Yeah.
And because they feel a little elevated, a little bit more glamorous, but they're still comfortable and soft. So I think those luxury materials like that would do really well for home. Another thing I saw even in Atlanta last week was more art prints, which I thought was interesting. More vendors, like more giftable vendors, were coming out with decorative art prints.
Okay.
That you wouldn't normally see, and like really like antique vintage vibes, which is kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we talked about seeing some more vintage vibes over the summer markets, sort of starting to trend. And I think there's so many social media videos about these like antique refurbs videos that people are loving, this more like storied, older vintage product look. It gives you a little bit more again, meaning and story in your home. So we're still paying attention to those vintage vibes in home decor, and that's extending into like decorative art for the wall too, which is really cool.
Okay. Yeah.
For the first time, we also saw area rugs and welcome mats being I didn't write the full stat down. But we do have area rugs and welcome mats was the first time that it overran general decorative accents in our gift book trend survey. So welcome mats, little accent rugs, area rugs, that seems to be really on trend for 2025 as far as consumers saying they plan to buy one over the next year.
So that was a growing category that, interesting. I wonder if, just been a long time, need a refresh on those, the old welcome mats worn out. We need a new one. And same with the area rugs, gotta get a new refresh to the house.
Yes. Yeah. And it's an easy way to add something small to give a whole new look to a home without investing a ton of money. So that's one thing that we look at too, is like ways to do small updates with the home that again don't cost a fortune. You're not doing a whole revamp. And a rug is an easy way to do that.
Yeah. Add some color or add just kind of a different look to the room without completely having to redo everything.
Yeah. And then one thing we noticed at the winter markets was so much more fused glass, which was a really
Mm,
interesting like tabletop kind of home
okay.
trend. So like serveware and cocktailware, that's like clear glass, but with the fused like bright cherries inside made out of glass
Oh,
or
nice.
something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. It was gorgeous. It was so beautiful. Mud Pie, Tag, Two's Company, they all had whole new collections of fused glass, serveware, and tabletop. And it was beautiful. And I think it's a nice way to add festive color joy to the home, but that still looks a little, elevated
A
or
little elevated. Yeah.
luxurious.
Right.
Yeah. So we're still seeing that. I think it's important for consumers now and in 2025 to add a little bit of joy to their everyday.
Sure.
And so things that have those little bright pops of color without feeling overboard, is a great way to do that.
Yeah. I love that. That's, a good example. I feel at least that it's a purposeful thing. It's sort of where, but it also adds color. It adds, so
Yeah.
it's kind of that multi-purposeful, decorative, but also functional purpose within the household.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And small lamps too. We
Okay.
usually don't talk about lamps that much at Gifts and Deck, but we've seen a lot more like small accent lamps as a neat way to add to a room's theme. But again, it's a smaller purchase. So that's another like kids lamps or small, living room accent lamps. Definitely more small accent lighting
Okay.
this year,
Yeah.
hmm
Fun.
which is new for us.
You had mentioned a holiday, so
Mhm.
velvet being big in holiday and that being incorporated. What else are you seeing in holiday? Because right now is, I mean, so much holiday at the shows, so everyone's buying right now.
I know. It seems crazy because as soon as you leave Christmas in
Right,
December and then January is this
like,
giant Christmas
oh,
buying
here's new,
season,
yeah, here's what's
it's
coming
like
up
the
next.
holiday that never ends for the gift industry. We're talking about it for months and months and months. So definitely, like we talked about, the more luxurious materials, velvet, satin, super metallic
Okay,
surfaces and reflections. We call it sort of the Gatsby vibes, things that
gotcha.
feel very
Okay,
Gatsby and luxury. And then things that are a little bit, I say bedazzled. I know
yeah,
Addie, our associate editor, she's on here too. Hi, Addie. Thanks for the support. Yeah, she saw a lot of bedazzled or like bejeweled products that was
yeah.
across the board, but I can also see that doing really well in holiday. Kind of that more is more approach
Okay,
that we've seen trending in fashion and jewelry is now in holiday of a more is more approach. And I think people are just still excited to celebrate and be festive and express themselves and kind of do away a little bit with the minimalist that we've seen for so long.
yeah. Are you
Um,
seeing? Oh, so you had mentioned before kind of some like almost vintage. Are you seeing that in Christmas as well or holiday as
yes.
well?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, vintage in holiday, vintage in Christmas especially, is a really big thing. Nostalgia always looks really well for
Sure.
Christmas. It never goes out of style.
Part of it, yeah.
Yes. But even I saw a lot more like vintage style Santa art prints and
Yeah.
like holiday artwork that is vintage was a new thing that I hadn't seen in a long time at least. So that was kind of a new trend for me from market for sure.
I saw that too. So I'm not the expert here, but I wanted to just kind of ask about that because I was seeing that. So yeah, seeing some of that vintage kind of, yeah, vintage holiday. So
Yeah, yeah. And then we do say as far as products, ornaments and candles are still the
hmm,
top two
okay.
products that are Christmas themed that consumers say they're looking for to buy the next year. So those are still top the charts. Even though candles is its own category, but
Can right.
Christmas candles, people love buying candles
You
for
get
Christmas.
yeah, get that great evergreen fir, yeah, smell candle. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Um, and then so with that said, expressive ornaments, there are so many fun ornaments on the scene now that just run the gamut of like, do you want a cowboy boot? Do you want a cocktail glass? Do you want a bag of Cheetos? Like,
Yes,
you know,
okay.
yes,
Saw, yeah, a lot of, yeah, just like, yeah, a bag of Cheetos or something very eclectic that not your
yes,
traditional holiday or ornament. So,
yes. And that kind of falls into that. Consumers love to express themselves, especially younger consumers. They're obsessed with expressing themselves, on social media and in all aspects. So having even ornaments that express really eclectic taste or, a random thing, kind of falls into that personalization trend that we've been seeing for a while.
Wonderful. Yeah. Any other holiday things that you were noticing?
No, I know Addie was looking for black and purple. We're keeping an eye on that for Christmas.
Okay.
I think because we're seeing this sort of like more vintage, I don't want to say dark look, but that, it's kind of a darker, vintage is kind of a darker look. We've seen Scrooge core popping on the scene, at least in social media and stuff too. So keeping an eye on darker colors for Christmas, like black or purple.
Interesting. So like,
we're keeping an eye on it.
Going against the grain of your traditional red and green, but black and purple for Christmas. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're keeping an eye on it. I'm not saying it's
not going to blow up yet,
rampant,
but yeah.
But sometimes you see little nuggets and we just keep an eye on it. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Gift category. So for our gift retailers out there, what is driving the gift market right now? At GHTA, when I was at their conference back in October, they had mentioned that there was a couple of retailers on a panel talking about innovation. Are you seeing new products in innovative new products? Kind of what are you seeing within the gift channel now?
Well, I was so sad to hear that, first of all.
A little bit, yeah. To the context of it, they were saying there wasn't innovation. And I was upset to hear that too.
Yeah. And then we really started thinking about it. And I do say I a little bit agree.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that unfortunately COVID did put us behind in product development.
Sure.
Vendors were just trying to get product in general in the hands to meet demand. And so product development and with that innovation did take, a downslide or is much slower. I think we're coming out of that, obviously. And I think for 2026 and 2027, I think we're going to see a lot more innovation than what we've been seeing. The last couple of years, there's definitely new products. Don't get me wrong. There's still new products. But if you want to say like innovative, like the next big idea, I do think we still have a couple of years before we see that coming. But I will say, I do think we're finally starting to catch up. Right now, I would say our biggest innovation is probably in wellness and skincare.
Okay.
Because there's so many, we're looking more at like science-backed skincare now. There's still an audience for natural beauty, natural skincare. That's not going to go away. People love natural.
A lot of people don't want to put chemicals on their body. They don't want to they're looking for that. Yeah.
Yes. But there's also an equal audience for people that do want those chemicals that they claim are really going to actually make a difference.
Okay.
So, we talk about, first of all, we look at Korean skincare, things that we, steal from Korean trends are really popular in beauty and skincare. So we've definitely seen some of that flow more into the gift industry. So I would say that's our biggest innovations right now, is doing more science-backed, probiotic or prebiotic lotions and skincare and things that make people feel like if they're going to pay the money for it, it's really going to work because it's backed by science.
Okay. Yeah.
Instead of, homeopathic. And then within that, again, in the self-care space, and we talked about the value of sleep. So one of the newest innovations I saw at market is, I hope I'm saying this right, but a new company, Lucem, and they were in Roadrunners in Atlanta. So they have sheets and pajamas and eye masks, but they're actually backed by science. It's the first set of sheets that Harvard University is endorsing because they did a 2,000 night sleep study with insomniacs. So the sheets, I hope I'm doing the story justice, but it was really cool. I was very interested.
Edge of my seat.
It was actually created, the founder was going through cancer and having lots of hot flashes. So she made these sheets where it's like a beautiful pattern in the sheet, but the pattern actually pulls the heat from your body. Like it cools you down before you start sweating. so that you just don't sweat.
Interesting.
But that was really cool to me. And like, that's more of an innovation, right? Like that's a science-backed, really cool new thing that's also helping with self-care and sleep health. And it's not just the sheets, but you also have, you know, these gorgeous soft pajamas and eye masks that are supposed to help, you know, not have wrinkles in the morning, but it's a sleep mask. That was probably the biggest innovation that I saw. So I think probably it's more in the self-care area because it's been so trendy.
Interesting. I will certainly check that out. I mean, that's
Check
from
it
a
out.
consumer, right? Consumer standpoint. That's really interesting. But okay, so a lot of innovation in wellness, a lot of kind of new things looking there. Again, a little bit of a split of the very natural products and some that maybe have chemicals or things in that that are science backed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I don't know that I would call it, like, innovation is such a hard word for me because I give it so much weight. Like, for it to be innovative, you know, like it has to
Like
blow your
it's
socks
like
off.
this is something I've never seen before. But yeah, right.
Yes.
It's difficult, but
but creativity wise, I did see, you know, we talk about reusability. I think it's Lusome, Lusome, but I'll have to double check. Sorry, someone put that comment up.
Great question, Shannon. Yeah, asking
and
about
I couldn't figure out
the
how to type it
spelling
out.
of the sheet company.
I couldn't figure out how to type it out at the moment. But so reusable products, you know, I think are creative. I don't know if I guess that's innovative if it's creative, but that's another area that I've seen more growth. Moi had new socks. I had to really think about that word for a second. It's M-E and then M-O-I, moi. Socks. So they had new like special occasion socks, like hope you're doing well, happy birthday, get well soon, you know, whatever, really fun festive socks. But the packaging that holds the socks is actually the gift card.
Oh, fun.
And so it just works as an all-in-one. Like there's your gift card. Technically, there's a little clear panel where you could slip an actual gift card in there if you wanted to a store or something. And then you have like fun socks to make it a little bit more personal. I thought that was really cool because it's such an easy, quick buy and go gift that feels a little personal. And again, like you don't have to buy a separate card because it's on the socks. So it's, you know, dual purpose.
That budget conscious. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was very creative and new. So I think the way that people are using their packaging or that the product can be reused in another way, there's been a lot of creativity in that space. And I would probably say that's been more where the innovation has been too. And there's a company, I'm not going to say this right. I say Tokki, T-O-K-K-I. They have gift bags. And, you know, like, I mean, we reuse gift bags, even if they're not supposed to be reusable. Everybody does. And, you know, they have the little tag for to and from. Sometimes I hate to write on them if it's a beautiful bag. It's like, but then you can't reuse it. So there's actually just a QR code there. And you can scan the QR code and write or record a message to and from. And then the recipient can then reuse the bag and re-record a message so that you never waste that beautiful tag. So I think digital add-ons and digital components to physical things, it would probably be another sort of innovation in our industry.
Yeah, that absolutely is. I would put that innovative, that weight of that word on something like that.
Yes.
Really cool. You can scan that goes somewhere else. You can record your message there, have that more personal item. So
it's very cool. So anything digital, like QR codes are not new. I know we were tired of them in COVID and in restaurants never using menus again. You're like, oh, QR code. But I do think we've learned how to use QR codes in a really creative way. You know, we have products that use QR codes now for, you know, video tutorials on how to actually use the product, whether it be skincare or a scarf you can wear 8 different ways. Show me how to do that because I don't know how if I buy the product. Or even like sauces. I think Finch and Fennel has this where it's a whole line of sauces with a QR code. You scan the QR code and then you get like recipes that you can make using that sauce. So that digital component, that digital add-on, I think is a really cool innovation that's popped up in our industry.
and something easy for companies to be able to put on. They house their own data offsite and just a link to it. So,
Mhm.
I mean, it really opens up a ton of possibilities with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. So another, I always like while at shows, yeah, there's the gift, there's apparel, but there's also toys and games.
Yes.
What have you seen in toys and games? Kind of a lot of fun things there. What are you noticing as kind of new, trending, different items there?
Yeah. So definitely I saw a lot of travel games, which I
Okay.
think is really nice, traveling with kids. I will soon, maybe soon, well, not maybe soon, but soon be traveling with kids.
Yeah.
Um, and so maybe I'm just paying more attention to that space. But no, there were a lot of new travel games and small games to keep kids busy while you're traveling. Obviously, travel is back,
Yes.
in a big way now than what it ever was before, right after COVID. So travel games are very big. And also toys that help you unplug or disconnect.
Okay.
So, parents are definitely saturated with, or they're digitally saturated. They're on their phone. And actually, I was watching the news while I was in Atlanta one morning. I wish I could remember the exact study, but I know they were talking about a new study that showed any amount of screen time in a child's first 2 years can have an impact on their mental development, which I mean, I know, yeah, they shouldn't watch too much TV, but that was kind
Yeah.
of crazy to me to hear
Yeah.
that. So this idea of having more of the old fashioned wooden toys and blocks and other things that help them think and, work on their skills, but that,
Imaginative play and things like that. Yeah.
yes, but that aren't, first of all, noisy because parents are tired of
Yes.
hearing all of the noises, but that don't have so much going on, so they're not so overstimulated. So I think as parents are starting to get a little bit tired of digital and wanting to unplug a little bit, they're also wanting to teach their children better habits because we're seeing, this younger generation, Gen Z and then Gen Alpha that are just so hooked on reels and the TV and the smartphone and the social media. And so trying to teach them better habits earlier. So more products that actually don't rely on digital components and chaotic noises and things like that. Saw more of that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, not having the YouTube be the babysitter and actually something they can play with, they can manipulate, they can use in different ways.
Yes, yeah. And then plush is still very big.
Of course.
And of course that's an unplugged item as well. But having, plush with more personality. So a lot of them now have, their own name and their own birthday and just gives them more of, they feel more real life to kids when they have, a birthday and a name and, whatever their likes or hobbies are. So it kind of fosters that pretend play, anything that fosters pretend play. And then dolls, plush has always been really big, but dolls are coming back really in a really big way. Soft dolls and with lots of accessories like bows or tutus or overalls, or again, things that kind of help, either the plush or the doll express him or herself, as we're expressing ourselves, we want our plush and our dolls
But they
to
get
have
they get
a
to dress them up
personality.
in a tutu or overalls or however that child wants to express that themselves.
Yeah, and it helps them to engage with them. A lot of times a plush is, a kid's first friend, like they're
Yeah.
playing pretend and they're imagining them be alive. So it just kind of helps with that. And then more unique critters too. So even plushy spiders and
Okay.
things that you
Yeah.
wouldn't think would be a cute, cuddly animal.
Yeah.
And I can never say the ocelot, oxalot,
Yes,
whatever.
I know exactly what you're saying. I can't
I
say it
know.
either. Kind of the lizard looking thing with the frills and
Yes.
yes.
So lots of interesting creatures as well, that, are a little bit different. But it's also interesting, right? Because that's also an educational component. If you have an odd critter or
Yeah.
wildlife, they're still learning about the wildlife around them instead of just a bear or a bunny or something
Yeah.
like that too.
Yeah, I've in personal life noticed a lot of that as well of yeah, other insects and different things being a lot
Yeah,
more popular. Bees
yeah,
being a
lobsters.
big yeah, there we go.
Like,
Thank you, Anne, for putting it in
thank you.
the with his external gills. Yes, the frilly
Yes,
things, as I said.
yes.
So okay.
Yes. And then one thing I also mentioned in the toy and game space is adult games. So
Okay. I was gonna
games
ask about
and
yeah.
puzzles and toys, nostalgic toys. Millennials are very nostalgic for the 90s. So any
Yep.
nostalgic toy. Um, yeah, particularly millennials and Gen X are very nostalgic generations. And so and they also kind of want to, I think, reclaim their youth a little bit in this phase in their
Yeah.
life. So last year was the first time that the growth in the like basically adult toy sales outpaced preschool toy sales for like the first time ever.
Interesting. Okay.
So adult is anyone 18 or over that
Okay.
is still buying, toys or games or board games or Jenga or whatever it is, to be more playful or nostalgic, especially with like licensed characters and, collectors, things like that. So definitely things that appeal to adults.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I saw that a lot of just, yeah, things. It's not just you're buying or having things for children. It's you're having things that might appeal to that young adult as well, because they're ones with buying power and that they're wanting
Yeah.
things for themselves too.
Yeah. Yeah. That was my stocking gift for my brothers this year is they had these little mini battleship games.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I was like, I gotta get them this because it's super nostalgic. I
Yeah.
bought my husband a Scrabble one and my uncle Monopoly one, like all the board games that they used to play, but they're little. Was it hard to play? It was, but we took our little tweezers out and we played Battleship with this little mini thing. But it was a lot of fun and it was, it was
So
nostalgic
yeah,
and fun.
fighting aging eyes in tiny pieces, but nostalgia, and I can carry
Yes.
it with me. So
Yeah.
one thing, so you had mentioned with in wellness, kind of the Korean Asian skincare. Are you also seeing kind of there's a Asian influence in toy and in games with well, our products? I mean,
I
no, okay,
wasn't prepared for that.
yeah.
Um,
Just
I mean,
something
maybe
I had noticed, kind of the Funko Pops and
yes.
other kind of having some of those. I didn't know if that was growing or if that had kind of always been
Yes,
there
it is
or
growing. It is growing. And I know that I'm not as well versed in this space. Maybe I
yeah.
will be next year because I'll have a kid next year. But definitely foreign characters. I know, like foreign cartoon characters
Yeah.
are becoming really big in that space. And so products that are licensed after foreign cartoon characters. And with that particularly Japanese anime character, like different things like that are flowing over. I wouldn't say I saw a crazy amount of it at market. But I do think, now with the digital world, like you're watching Korean TV and,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
kinds of different things. So our kids are more exposed to other cartoons and characters that they wouldn't be before.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just kind of, I don't know what made me think of that while I was at market. I was just didn't know if that was something that had kind of always existed or kind of a growing category. So
Yeah, I'm seeing
yeah.
more of it now than I did
Yeah.
before, for
Yeah.
sure.
What about like sustainability and give back products? Are you seeing a larger demand for this? Has this kind of plateaued? What are you seeing as things that are more sustainable or things that have a cause to them?
Yeah, I definitely think it's still in demand. I think, I do think part of, the reusability
Yeah.
angle happens to be more eco-friendly and sustainable, but it's also budget conscious.
Okay.
So that's probably more where that space is right now. Consumers now, and I read somewhere, honestly expect more from their manufacturers than they ever
Okay.
did before. So while they may not feel like they need to change their habits because they're just one person, you, the manufacturer, should be more sustainable.
Mm.
That's kind of their take
Yeah.
on it because you're a bigger fish in the pond. So I do think consumers do expect more responsibility from the people that they buy from. The only thing is that, in 2024, and I would imagine in 2025 as well, they wanted things to be sustainable, but they didn't necessarily want to pay a high price tag for it. So it is very important to have products that are more eco-friendly or sustainable to appeal to consumers. But I wouldn't get something that is, oh, of course you're going to pay, $50 more or $100 more because it's made with, whatever, because they want to be responsible, but they don't want to pay for it.
Yeah, interesting. So it's, while I feel 5-10 years ago, that was almost a like, look at this product. It has a cause to it. It is earth friendly. Now that's just kind of like the expectation that you are making an earth friendly product, and that it should be that
but
way.
But I don't want to pay more for it, which is really difficult. Believe me, I get it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That's kind of like, wanting your cake and eating it too, but consumers are demanding more, I think. But I don't think it's going away. I mean, even right now, we've seen crazy weather and we've got wildfires out in California. We have so many things going on with our environment. I definitely don't think the, global warming and environmental concerns are going away at any point, because we're constantly reminded of why they're important and the things that are happening. And then I will say, I do think gifts that give back, I would say, are probably trending higher because they have that personal connection and that human component to them. So as people are looking for more positivity in the world, or like wanting to spread more kindness, if I read a product and it says, Cuddle and Kind is a great example. And the One Coast, they renewed One Coast this year. Showroom, you buy one plush character and it provides 10 meals, to children in need that are starving. And it's like, that is a human connection and pulls at your heartstrings. And so I do think consumers will pay a little more for that because it makes them feel good. And, you feel bad for the people that need the help. So I do think gifts that have that more emotional component are going to be trending higher than things that are eco-friendly, but they're both important.
Good. Okay. I feel like, there's been a lot of those in the market. I just didn't know how, if people had kind of maybe gotten a little over them, or, but good. Still seeing that emotional connection.
Yeah. I feel like something that's made out of recycled water bottles or that's sustainable is like a nice value add. Like, it may not necessarily compel the consumer to buy it if they weren't already going to buy it, but it makes them feel better about their purchase. Whereas I think something that has more of an emotional connection, like a give back story, there's a higher possibility that it's going to compel them to buy when they might not have bought in the first place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I skipped over fashion. What are you seeing in, sorry, I jumped. No,
that's okay. I'm keeping up.
What are you seeing in the fashion and fashion accessories world?
Yeah, fashion has been so exciting because for the longest time we were just in our pajamas for a couple of years there.
As a lot of you are at home watching.
Yes. So fashion has seen so many great things over just the last couple of years. I mentioned before, we're in this more is more approach. And so we're in this more is more approach when it comes to fashion accessories. So jewelry in particular, they call it kind of the dynasty era, like chunkier 80s style jewelry, really big beads or really big pearls, that type of thing. Charm bars.
Yes.
Everyone saw a charm bar if you went to a market in the summer or
and seeing them a lot in stores too. Yeah, a lot of charm bars. Yes.
Yes. So charm bars are incredibly popular. One, it follows that more is more approach. I mean, you can be minimal with it, but you can just keep on adding them on there. And it falls into that personalization trend of consumers wanting to personalize an item, want something that nobody else has. So if I'm building this necklace myself, nobody else has this exact necklace. And it's personal to me. I'm able to express my hobbies, my likes, my interests. They're incredibly smart for retailers because it's an interactive activity in your store as well. I did a charm bar in the summer and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And it's not even that expensive.
Yeah.
I walked away. I walked away with a necklace well over $100 because I just kept putting all these charms on there. You get so excited about the little charms and different things, and then before you know it, it's all added up. So it's a really clever tactic from a retailer standpoint, because you're having a great time. Usually you're going to go with a friend, and so you've got this like friendly component to it, and usually you're going to spend more if you have someone that's enjoying an experience with you. You kind of encourage one another to spend more.
And after you've created it, there's no way you're going to back down and be like, well, let me take off half of these. And
you're like, well, I'm in it now. So charm bars, and then even jewelry that maybe is not necessarily part of a charm bar, but that has charms and it looks, follows that trend or that style, are popular too. So definitely neck expression, jewelry, charms, charm bars, still very big. I don't think going to go away. Definitely not in 2025. I don't think it's going to go away in 2026. Like, they're here to stay for a little while. And you can always keep making new ones. It's not like you buy one, you're like, oh, I don't need another one. Or you're going to buy a charm to add to something that you already have. So it's a great way to keep customers, coming back, or bringing a friend, and then they're going to, make one too.
Personal expression and kind of getting that throughout as we're talking, that a lot of, how can I personally express myself in my products?
Yes. And then we also talked about corporate core is a new trend in fashion apparel. Quite a few companies are forcing their employees to go back to the office now, at least for a hybrid schedule. And so you have these consumers that need proper corporate attire. There's also social pressure. When you go to the workplace, there's more social pressure than when you're working from home. And it's like, it doesn't really matter what I wear. But it does matter, and you want to impress your coworkers. So we're seeing more stylish attire, particularly for women. But we're calling it corporate core. So really fun, like oversized blazers, or like really fun printed blazers. So maybe, yes, it's a fitted blazer, but it's, decorated in bright florals. So it's like, yes, I'm professional, I'm a girl boss, but I can also be feminine and fun and express myself at the same time.
I have a personality too.
Yes. Getting to be serious and feminine and fun at the same time. And I think it's really important for women consumers to have that balance, to be able to have both worlds. And then 80s jewelry and 90s vests and dusters are supposed to be trending for 2025.
Okay.
I don't know how I feel about the vest of the 90s coming back. I didn't see a lot of that at market, but according to the fall fashion shows for 2025, that has been deemed by several fashion magazines that dusters and, long cardigans, dusters, vest, and pinstripe button downs of the 90s are supposed to be really big for 2025. And then expressive, we talked about expressive accessories. Hats are part of that. So a bigger demand for hats like fedoras, not just sun hats, which is really fun. I don't look good in hats, but I love them. I'll buy them and then never wear them. Like,
hey, you got them for decoration.
Yes, it makes no sense. But and then of course, anything that's really feminine. So we talked about voluminous sleeves, big ruffle sleeves, lots of ruffles, lots of lace and sheer fabrics, things that feel very just, feminine. And then crochet, because we're still seeing a lot of crochet. Actually, we saw crochet cross into the home space in a pretty big way at the winter shows. So looking at crochet both in fashion, like a crochet top, but also like crochet accents on pillows and tea towels. We're definitely seeing that sort of handmade look of crochet still trend with consumers.
Very fun. Crochet blankets, I know, have had a big part. When you're talking hats, I had seen a lot of stores like trucker hats and trucker hat bars.
Yes,
is that something you predict
too.
to be kind of, again, that self-expression? So continuing to see that.
Yes, 100%. A lot of
Okay.
trucker hats. I'm glad you brought
Yeah.
that up.
Yeah.
And because trucker hats are so great because they also have usually a statement across the top. Like they're the most expressive hat,
Yeah.
honestly, because they
Yeah.
can put any statement on the top. So yeah, trucker hats are really big too.
Okay. Yeah. So, how can retailers, yeah, a lot of new trends, a lot of different things that are being introduced, but also there's kind of your tried and true classics. What is kind of the balance that you think retailers should have between bringing in these brand new, diving into a new trend, but also keeping on what has always been working for them?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about trends so much. That's honestly a bulk of what Gifts and Deck does
Yeah,
is talk about trends. But you also have to be really careful with trends, honestly, as a retailer. So
coming
I
up.
feel
Yeah.
bad reporting on all these trends all the time. And then I'm like, but also
Yeah.
maybe don't tap into all of them because you really do, we say you have to know your customer, you have to know your customer. I know it sounds like such general advice, but you have to know your customer. Like not every trend is going to work in your store, and that's
Yeah.
okay. I think the biggest thing to take notice of is how trendy are your customers. So, do
Mm.
you have younger customers that are constantly looking for the next thing and that are quick adapters? If not, you might have slow adapters. You might have people that, oh, I don't want to bring up gnomes. Oh, but that's the only thing that's coming to my mind right now.
Oh, take us back a few
uh,
years. Give us some gnomes.
but I mean, gnomes, I mean, I'm happy to say gnomes are finally out. Like, oh my God, they're done. But I'm officially ready to call them dead now. But they did have a pretty long lifespan
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
So you might have been an early adopter who were the first to have gnomes, and maybe your customers jumped on it, they loved it, or you could have gone into a trend too fast. If your customers are like, ew, what is this, then you adopted too early. I'm not explaining this very well, but you have to know not just if a trend will work for your store, but when to jump on it
Yeah.
sometimes. So if your customers tend to be early adopters and very trendy and they want the next new thing they haven't seen before, then you definitely have to pay attention to them and try to bring them in early. But some trends, it's okay to come in later, especially if you might have more conservative consumers or customers that want to see something for a while and get comfortable with it and know
Yeah.
that it's popular before they're ready to adopt it. um and then just knowing your customer in general and your store's brand in general. I know I'm not giving super helpful advice, but
It's
it's so hard. This one's hard for me because it's hard to generalize something for an industry that is made up of so many small specific
yeah,
stores
absolutely. Right.
and
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 different
niche customers.
customers and regions and buying habits. Yeah, absolutely. Um,
Yeah. So I think, they say, 80% of your sales typically come from 20% of your core best-selling products, those evergreen products, those, three or four brands that are tried and true, and your customers come back to you for it every time. Obviously, you want to have those staples in your store to carry your store. But then I
yeah.
think you still need to have a section of product discovery. And if you're not really jumping on trends, maybe, set aside one display. This one display I'm going to buy, wide but shallow into this new trend and see how it does.
Yeah.
If it doesn't do great, you haven't bought so deep into it that, you've messed yourself up. But I definitely would dedicate at least one display, to something clever and new or trendy and just see how it does. I would take inventory on it every day because you want to see how fast did your customers adopt that new trend. Did they sit on it for a really long time, a few weeks, and then it finally caught on and it went like crazy? I think, just collecting data on how your customers respond to your inventory is going to help you sort of make those future decisions on when to jump on a trend and if a trend might work for your customers or not.
Amazing. Well, we are coming to the end of our hour. I want to open up for any questions that people might have, anything that maybe all are seeing out in your stores or that you've seen at market. Can ask Lenise any questions that you might have. So, Lenise, I don't know if you want to, while typing or thinking, yeah, plug Gifts and Deck magazine or anything that you'd like to share.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm on the spot. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gifts and Decorative Accessories. We've been in the industry over 100 years. You can go to gifts, and I should type that. I like can't find my mouse right now.
Here, I'll put it up.
Giftsanddeck.com. Maybe put our website on there. We always cover all the major markets: Dallas, Atlanta, New York, Vegas. We're constantly doing coverage and product trends and galleries of new finds. We're right now like in the middle of doing all of our Atlanta coverage right now. So if you didn't get to go, or like you said, Patrick, even if you got to go, you could walk for 12 hours a day and still not see everything at these markets. So that's
or understand how everything's connecting together. Yes.
And that's one thing that we do is we do cover trends per product category, but we also try to really cross merchandise them to give a bigger picture of what's happening in a trend across categories. So if you're not a subscriber of the magazine, at least pop onto the website and check out some of the product galleries to discover some new products, and kind of see how we felt about the shows and things.
Shannon has a great question. What are the latest children's fashion trends coming up? We do a lot of smocked and applique, but like to add in some fun, trendy fashion as well. Great question, Shannon.
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely, I think applique is still really big. I saw a lot of like patches and like different, kind of makes it feel a little, not like handmade, but I say bedazzle. It looks like you put your own patches on there kind of thing. Patches were really big. And then again, a little more is more, especially in girl apparel. So like glitter and sequins and like jewels, like a little bit more bedazzled and feminine flair. I definitely saw more of that in the like toddler girl space at this past show, if that helps. Did that help?
No, it's oversized bows and collars I've seen.
Oh my gosh, bows are still so big. And bows are everywhere, not just in toddler apparel or kid apparel, but like wine glass charms that are bows, napkin holders that are bows, just so many bows. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot to mention bows. That's a huge trend. I know we've been talking about it for a while, but that's another, maybe like a gnome style. Like it's going to be here for a little while.
Excellent question, Shannon. Thank you. Don't know if there's any other question. Let me just check the Q&A real quick. All right. Well, Lenise, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate this. I've learned a whole lot. Hopefully our audience has learned a lot as well. Again, just understanding what's going on within different categories, what's going on in the big picture. So thank you so much for being on today. A quick plug for our next webinar, which is going to be, thank you, LB, for the round of applause. Our next webinar is going to be Wednesday, February 26th. We're going to be talking about visual merchandising techniques. So we'll have a group come on called Retail Works Inc., talking about visual merchandising. So you can register for that through our website, heartonmainstreet.org. But again, Lenise, thank you so much for being on. This is fantastic. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I had so much fun. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah. Have a great day, everybody, and take care. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Main Street Matters by Heart on Main Street. Your support and engagement mean the world to us, and we're so grateful to have this incredible community of independent retailers and supporters. Before we wrap up, I want to remind you once more about the really urgent need to support retailers affected by the wildfires in California. These businesses are the heart and soul of their communities, and they need our help now more than ever. If you can, please consider making a donation at www.heartonmainstreet.org. Every contribution, big or small, goes directly to helping these retailers rebuild their businesses and continue to serve their communities. If you want to learn more about our mission, upcoming events, or ways to get involved, you can visit our website. Again, that is heartonmainstreet.org. There you'll find valuable resources, educational content, and ways to connect with like-minded individuals who share a passion for supporting independent retailers. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll be back soon with more stories, insights, and strategies to help your business thrive. Until next time, be safe, shop small, and keep supporting Main Street and making a difference in your community. Thanks. This episode was written, produced, researched, and edited by me, Patrick Keiser, with a very special thanks to Lenise Willis of Gifts and Dec magazine. You can find out more about Heart on Main Street by visiting heartonmainstreet.org.